galaxy was quiet when the signal woke the stars. For 10,000 years, everyone believed humans were gone. They were only a story, a warning, a legend that elders whispered to young warriors. But on the edge of the galaxy, a forgotten station opened its eyes, its lights turned on, its engines hummed softly, and a message began to travel through space. Every empire heard it, every council stopped speaking, every fleet stood still. Because the message was not a threat, it was not a request, it was only one simple line. Humanity has returned. The narrator voice inside the alien halls spoke. Slowly, the commanders looked at each other. Some were afraid, some were curious, but all of them remembered the same old rule: never provoke humans. No one knew who created that rule. No one remembered when it was first written. But every star nation followed it, even the most powerful ones, even the cruel ones. A young officer from a reptilian empire asked his elder why the rule mattered so much. The elder did not answer. He only stared at the map of the galaxy and whispered that some history is better left sleeping. But now, history was awake again. Inside the human station, machines moved slowly. The systems repaired themselves. Cryopods opened, one by one. The first human opened his eyes. His breath was calm. His face was quiet. He did not panic. He did not shout. He simply looked at the empty space outside the window. He did not know that billions of eyes across the galaxy were watching him. Aliens expected anger, war, or noise. But the human only activated the station logs. He read old messages. He studied ancient files. He stood like a silent ghost from a forgotten age. The galaxy waited. The galaxy held its breath. Some leaders said humans must be weak now. 10,000 years of sleep means rusted ships and broken minds. They laughed to hide their fear. Others said, humans never show strength until it is needed. They warned their councils to remain quiet. Across space, probes moved closer to the human station. They scanned from a distance. They saw old human technology still working, still strong, still patient. The human did not stop them. He did not speak to them. He simply watched, and that silence was more frightening than any threat. Because every species remembered stories of the last war, stories where humans fought not for conquest, but for survival. And when humans fight for survival, nothing in the galaxy stays the same. Now, the signal kept spreading, and slowly, the galaxy began to understand. The rules still lived, and soon, they would remember why. The awakening signaled the galaxy was quiet when the ancient signal began to travel through space. For many ages, every species believed humans were gone. They believed humanity was only a story, a warning, a memory lost in time. In great halls across the stars, elders spoke about humans in low voices. They said humans were brave, humans were dangerous, and humans were different from all others. But no one had seen a human for 10,000 years, so younger generations stopped believing. They called the stories myths. They called the rule unnecessary. Then one forgotten station woke up at the edge of the galaxy. Its lights turned on slowly. Its engines hummed like a distant echo. Old machines began to move again. Dust fell from metal floors, and broken screens began to glow. A signal left the station, simple and calm, moving through deep space like a whisper. Across the galaxy, fleets stopped. Councils paused. Commanders listened, because the message was not long. It carried only 3 words: humanity has returned. No one laughed now. No one spoke loudly. Fear walked through every meeting room, every ship bridge, every station corridor. They all remembered the rule that had no author, the rule that no one questioned: never provoke humans. A young officer from an insectoid empire asked why the rule mattered. He asked why they feared a species that disappeared so long ago. His commander did not answer. He only stared at the signal map and said that some doors must remain closed. Some history must stay silent. But history was awake again, inside the human station. Cryopods opened one by one. Cold air filled the corridors. Screens displayed forgotten data. Machines repaired themselves with slow patience. The first human opened his eyes. His breathing was calm. His face was quiet. His expression looked tired yet strong. He stood up slowly. He looked through a wide window into endless space. He saw stars that were older than his memories. He did not shout. He did not panic. He did not ask where he was. He simply watched. Across the galaxy, billions of eyes watched him back. From shadowed war rooms, from research stations, from silent ships hiding behind moons. Some leaders whispered that humans must be weak now. They said long sleep destroys strength. They said old technology cannot compete with modern fleets. Others shook their heads and warned them. They said humans never show their full power. They said humans hide fire behind quiet voices. Probes moved closer to the station. They scanned its structure. They saw metal stronger than theirs, reactors still alive, defense systems still ready. The human let them watch. He did not block them. He did not threaten them. His silence felt heavier than any weapon. He opened old files. He read mission logs. He studied messages from a lost age. He saw records of wars, records of sacrifice, records of decisions made when the galaxy was different. He remembered why humanity went to sleep, far away. An old archive was unlocked by an alien historian. Inside it were reports of the last great war. Planets fell, empires broke, and yet humans did not conquer. Humans fought only to survive. Humans fought to protect what they loved, and when the war ended, humans vanished, leaving only the rule behind. Now, the rule was alive once more. The signal kept spreading, slow and patient. Like footsteps returning to a forgotten road, some species prepared their armies, others chose silence, others simply prayed to stars, because they all felt the same truth in their hearts. Humanity was not a legend anymore. Humanity was awake, and soon, the galaxy would remember why the rule existed. The silent observations, the galaxy watched the human station with careful eyes. No one sent greetings, no one sent warnings. Every empire waited to see what humans would do first, but humans did not speak. They did not send messages. They did not call any council. They simply observed inside the station. More humans slowly woke from cryosleep. They walked through long metal corridors. They checked machines. They repaired damaged systems. They spoke in soft voices, calm and focused. Their leader, a woman with tired eyes and a steady mind, studied star charts from the new age. She realized that 10,000 years had passed, yet her expression remained calm. She did not panic. She did not show fear. She only said that humanity must first understand the galaxy before speaking to it. Across space, alien governments argued. Some said humans were weak and confused. Others said silence was more dangerous than war. A council of scholars gathered in a floating city above a blue giant star. They reviewed historical records of human behavior. They saw patterns that made them uneasy. Humans never rushed. Humans never rushed. Humans never attacked first. Humans always watched, learned, and only acted when the moment truly mattered. This silence was not weakness. It was preparation. Military fleets stayed near borders, their captains nervous, their weapons ready, yet no one dared to move closer than allowed, because even after 10,000 years, the rule still lived inside. Their minds never provoke humans. On a distant world of crystal deserts, a young alien scientist watched the human station through a deep space telescope. He was fascinated. He admired human design. He admired their discipline. He sent a message to his academy, saying that humans acted like explorers, not conquerors, like guardians returning to their post. But his elders warned him to remain silent. They said curiosity about humans was dangerous. Inside the station, humans activated ancient satellites. They restored long-range scanners. They mapped star systems that were once part of human travel routes. They saw new empires, new trade routes, new conflicts. They also saw suffering, small planets under cruel rulers, innocent species controlled by stronger powers. Wars fought not for survival but for pride. The human leader watched these reports with quiet sadness. She said humanity would not interfere yet. They must understand the balance of the galaxy first. Her crew agreed. They trusted her judgment. They trusted their mission. Across the galaxy, rumors spread through spaceports and marketplaces. Travelers whispered that humans were awake, but silent. Awake, but patient. Some people felt safe. Others felt fear. Others felt hope. They did not understand. A powerful empire saw the silence as insult. Their warlord declared that humans were too proud to answer. He said the galaxy must remind them who rules now. But his advisors trembled. They reminded him of the last time someone challenged humanity. They reminded him of planets lost and fleets erased. The warlord hesitated, because even tyrants respected the rule. Inside the human station, children woke from cryosleep too, small and confused, yet calm when they saw familiar faces. This surprised alien observers. They expected soldiers only. They expected weapons and armies, but they saw families, engineers, scientists, teachers, people rebuilding a life, not preparing for conquest. The silence of humans began to change into a message, not spoken with words, but shown through actions. We are not here to rule the galaxy, but we will not let it fall into darkness. More probes approached the station, and again, humans did not stop. They allowed themselves to be studied, because they were also studying everyone else. Their silence became a mirror. It showed every empire who they truly were. The proud felt challenged, the wise felt respect, and the cruel felt fear, because deep in their hearts, they all knew the same truth. Humans were watching, and when humans watch, they are already preparing, and the galaxy began to wonder what would happen when the silence finally ended. The forgotten war across the galaxy. Historians searched old archives. They wanted to understand why every empire feared humans, why the rule existed, why silence surrounded their name like a shadow. On a great library world made of silver towers, an elder archivist opened sealed files, records that had been locked for thousands of years, records no one was allowed to study. The system asked for many security keys, and when the last seal opened, the room became quiet. Inside the files was the truth of the forgotten war, the war that created the rule. The archivist read slowly, his hands shaking, his eyes wide with fear and respect. Long ago, the galaxy was ruled by a massive empire, stronger than any that existed now, proud, cruel, and filled with arrogance. They saw young species as tools. They saw weak worlds as resources. They believed they owned the stars. Then they discovered humans, a rising race that grew fast, explored space, built colonies, and protected their people with unbreakable unity. The great empire thought humans would kneel like others. They sent demands, they sent threats, they sent fleets, but humans refused to bow. Humans did not threaten them. Humans did not shout. Humans simply said that they would defend their homes, their families, their future. The empire laughed. They believed humans were small. They believed humans were easy to crush, so the war began. The archivist watched old battle footage. Bright light filled the skies. Fleets clashed in silence across empty space. Planets burned. Moons shattered. Humans fought with everything they had. They did not fight for conquest. They did not fight for glory. They fought because they had no other choice. They protected every refugee they could. They rescued allies. They formed coalitions with species who were once enemies, because survival united them, and when humans fight for survival, they become something the galaxy cannot forget. The empire kept pushing, but humans adapted. Humans learned faster. Humans changed strategies in every battle. They felt fear, but they did not run. They felt pain, but they did not break. The war lasted many years, and in the end, the empire did not fall because humans wanted power. The empire fell because humans refused to surrender. The record showed the last message from the human high command. They said the war had cost too much, too many lives, too much sorrow. They did not celebrate victory. They mourned it. The archivist understood now. Humans never enjoyed war. That was what made them terrifying. They fought only when there was no other path. Across the galaxy, other historians opened their own sealed archives, and each one found the same story. Humans were not monsters. Humans were not conquerors. Humans were survivors. Back in the present, leaders sat in quiet rooms, watching the files with heavy hearts. They understood why the rule was written, even if no one claimed to have written it. Never provoke humans, not because humans seek destruction, but because humans will end a threat completely when forced on the human station. The crew also reviewed fragments of old war logs. They remembered sacrifices. They remembered promises made before cryo-sleep. They promised that if humanity returned, they would not repeat the past. They would not become the empire they once fought. The human leader looked at her people and spoke in a calm voice. She said that the galaxy changed, but their duty remained the same, to protect, not to dominate, across space. The fear around humans slowly transformed into something different, something deeper. It became respect, but not everyone accepted that truth. Not every empire agreed. Some saw the forgotten war as a challenge instead of a warning, and in the darkness of distant space, a new power began to rise, a power that believed the rules should be broken, and soon the galaxy would discover what happens when someone tries. The first contact against the human station floated quietly at the edge of the galaxy. Its lights were calm, its systems were steady, and humans continued their silent work. They repaired old modules. They restored power lines. They tested engines that had slept for 10,000 years. Across space, every empire watched, waiting for humans to speak first, waiting for a message, a warning, or a declaration. But humans, he remained silent. Then, for the first time since their return, a small alien ship slowly moved toward the station. It was not a warship, it was not a battleship, it was a diplomatic vessel, old and fragile, carrying leaders who carried both fear and courage inside their hearts. The crew inside that ship knew they were risking everything. They knew one wrong move could start a storm across the stars, yet they also knew that silence could not last forever. The ship stopped at a safe distance. It sent a quiet signal, not a demand, not a command, just a respectful request to speak. Inside the human station, the leader watched the signal with a thoughtful expression. Her people waited for her decision. No one rushed her, no one pushed her. They trusted her judgment completely. After a long moment of silence, she nodded, and for the first time since their awakening, humans answered. A docking path opened, slow and careful, like an invitation wrapped in caution. The alien ship approached, its engines shaking, its crew whispering prayers and hopes. When the airlock joined, no weapons were raised. No alarms sounded. The door opened, and the first new contact in 10,000 years began. The aliens expected anger. They expected cold stares or proud voices. But instead, they saw calm faces, steady eyes, and quiet strength. The human leader greeted them with simple words. Her voice soft, her tone respectful. She said they had awakened after a long sleep. She said they were still learning what the galaxy had become. She did not claim power. She did not claim authority. She spoke like a traveler, returning to a world that had moved on. The alien delegation felt confused. They had prepared for threats, for negotiations, for fear. But what they felt instead was weight, a silent gravity inside every human word. They asked why humans remained quiet, why they did not contact the councils, why they watched instead of acting. The human leader answered gently. She said, humanity knew the cost of mistakes. She said they would not move the galaxy until they understood it. Her words were not loud, but they carried history, sacrifice, and memory. The aliens spoke about the present age. They spoke about new empires, rising powers, and weak worlds under cruel rulers. They asked if humans planned to interfere. The human leader shook her head slowly. She said humanity would not rule. Humanity would not conquer, but humanity would not ignore suffering forever. She said humans would act only when there was no other path, only when the line between survival and destruction was crossed. The aliens understood then why the rule existed. It was not fear of human rage. It was fear of what humans became when forced to protect others. During the meeting, children walked through the corridor. Engineers carried tools. Medics checked medical pods. The aliens saw life, not an army. They realized humans were rebuilding, not preparing for domination, but outside, in the dark regions of distant space, a rising empire listened to the conversation through hidden channels. They called humans arrogant. They said the galaxy did not need guardians. They believed strength belonged to those willing to take it. Their leaders decided that the rule should end, that fear of humans was a chain that must be broken, while humans offered peace. This new empire planned defiance. The first contact ended with quiet respect. The alien delegation left with hearts heavy and hopeful. They knew humans would not start a war. But if a war came to them, the galaxy would once again learn why the rule must never be broken. The challenge to the rule in the deep regions of the galaxy, far from trade routes and peaceful systems, the rising empire gathered its fleets. Their ships were dark and sharp, built for conquest, built for fear, built for domination. Their leader stood inside a massive war hall, surrounded by generals who believed strength was the only truth in the universe. They spoke about humans with anger. They said the rule had kept the galaxy weak. They said everyone bowed to a ghost that slept for 10,000 years. They called humans overrated. They called the legends exaggerated. They said the time of fear was over. And so, they made a decision that shook the galaxy. They chose to break the rule. They did not attack humans directly, because even they still hesitated. Even they still felt a shadow of doubt in their hearts. Instead, They attacked weak worlds under protection agreements made long ago during the Forgotten War. Small colonies, peaceful civilizations, species who trusted that no one would harm them while the rule existed. The rising empire burned their cities, enslaved their people, took their resources, and sent a message across the stars. They said the rule was dead. They said no one would stop them, not even humans. Across the galaxy, fear spread like fire. Councils argued, fleets debated. Some begged humans to intervene, others begged them to stay silent, because everyone knew one thing: if humans acted, the galaxy would change again. Inside the human station, reports arrived one after another. Screens showed burning worlds, crying families, broken futures. The crew watched quietly, their hearts heavy, their memories full of old wounds. The human leader stood still, her voice calm but carrying deep sorrow. She said they had promised not to repeat the past,